long-term
Everyone
effects
has
on our
an
economy
opinion about
of
Canadian
young
federal
people
politics.
who can't build their dreams, can't start a family, can't live in the communities in which they work, will be devastating for this economy. The current situation is not just unfair for young families and young people who don't have the opportunities that their parents and grandparents had when you work hard to build a future for yourself.
So Alberta could technically leave the Canada Pension Plan tomorrow. We are not going to get a number from the federal government easy. So they're going to want to drag their heels. They're going to want to delay as much and as long as they can, because again, they don't want to deal with this issue. They don't want to acknowledge the fact that this could happen, let alone will happen.
Hey gang, what's up? Just Aaron, right here, Question Period Canada. How y'all doing? We do quite a number of videos on Jagmeet Singh. Is he polarizing to you? How do you feel about Jagmeet? Is he in it for his pension? Is he in it? What is he in it for? They keep saying that the NDP is helping. All Canadians want, it would seem, by the polls, is an election, and the NDP could make that happen, but they don't do it. They're going to put this budget through. It's ludicrous. So much spending, guys. So we're going to take a peek at this video of Jagmeet with his girl, Heather McPherson, who has one of the most terrifying voices in all of Canadian federal politics. Guaranteed. Just listen to her. But then Jagmeet gets kind of grilled a bit by the journalists in the scrum, which I've noticed lately has been happening more often. Somehow he's not protected by this Liberal NDP coalition government from the press. Like, everything that the Liberals get asked are T-ball questions. Like, they're jokes. They kind of come at Jagmeet a bit. Let's check out what Heather McPherson and Jagmeet had to say, how they're saving the country, and they care about your pension and theirs. I'm sure of it. Let's take a peek.
When I'm Prime Minister, I will keep my promises. For the folks over here, when I'm Prime Minister, I will keep my promises. Absolutely.
Today I met with Mansour Shuman, a Palestinian Canadian who risked his life to report on the devastation and horror of the war in Gaza. Weeks ago, the Liberals promised to stop selling military goods to Netanyahu and to sanction extremists. As innocent children continue to die, they haven't issued export notices or announced sanctions. This is a betrayal of the hundreds of thousands of Canadians who want peace for Palestinians and Israelis. We need a two-way arms embargo and sanctions. How many more people will die before this government acts?
Strong voice for Edmonton Strathcona, MP Heather McPherson. Thanks very much.
Awesome.
Well, thanks everyone for being here today. You know what Tricia said is absolutely correct. There is a real threat to the Canadian pension plan right now. You know, Canadian workers deserve to have their pensions protected. Seniors deserve to be able to retire with dignity. And the Canadian pension plan is frankly ranked #1 in the world right now. But it is under attack. And I want to make it very clear that the problem isn't just for Albertans. It isn't just for seniors. It's for all Canadians. Because the attack that we see right now by Danielle Smith on the Canadian pension plan, the desire to take the Alberta portion out of that pension plan is going to destabilize the entire Canadian CPP. And make no mistake, that is exactly what Pierre Poilievre wants. Mm-hmm. He has made it very clear for decades that he does not believe in the Canadian pension plan, the #1 ranked pension plan in the world, the pension plan that so many Canadians who are struggling with affordability right now are depending on for a dignified retirement. Even as lately as 2022, he was very clear and stating that a Conservative government would shut down the CPP. So on Tuesday, I'll be tabling legislation that will make it much harder for any Conservative government, whether it's Danielle Smith or whether it's Pierre Poilievre, to gamble with the future of Canadians. It'll make it much harder for Canadians to be able to step away from, for Canadian provinces to be able to pull out of that CPP. It will involve other provinces, making sure that all Canadians have a say before their CPP is damaged, destabilized, or gambled with. I'm going to introduce Jagmeet Singh to you, but before I go, I just want to make it extraordinarily clear that the CPP is too important. It's too important to gamble with. And I stand here with New Democrats. I stand here with Albertans because we're going to continue to fight to make sure that the government can't take away the CPP. Thank you. Jagmeet?
Thanks so much. Thanks so much, Heather. Thank you, Heather, and thank you, Tricia, for your really powerful words. And thank you for being here, the folks behind me who are really the voice of a lot of Albertans who are fighting back. As was said, people in our country should be able to retire with dignity. And a pivotal part of that dignity when you retire is the CPP, the Canada Pension Plan. For so many Canadians, that is how they are planning their retirement. And the CPP really is what you deserve. It's what you've earned. You've worked your life, you've contributed to this plan, and you deserve to have it there for when you retire. And what this pension means is dignity and respect. It means that when you retire, you can buy the things that you need. You can continue to live in dignity and respect. So when Danielle Smith threatens to attack it, she's attacking the very dignity and the very respect of people who retire. She's attacking their means to be able to survive. And it is particularly offensive at a time when the cost of living is so high. And as was said by both Tricia and Heather, let's make no mistake. Pierre Poilievre wants this attack on CPP because he himself in the fall of 22 proposed cutting the premiums or cutting the amount that's contributed to CPP. As Heather said, he wants to attack fundamentally to the CPP because he does not believe that Canadians deserve a pension, which is very rich coming from someone who has a taxpayer-funded pension that will be worth over $3 million. We want all Canadians to have a good pension to retire with dignity. But it is very telling of the Conservatives that they want to take that dignity away from you. Let's also look at the actions of the Conservatives when they were in power. When Pierre Poilievre was in power with Harper, they increased the age of pensions from 65 to 67. Another attack on seniors, another attack on pensions. The Conservatives want to take away your pensions. The Conservatives want to attack your dignity. For seniors who've worked their whole life, they want to take away their means of surviving. And we are saying very clearly, that's not going to happen. We're sending a message to Conservatives, we're going to fight back. Heather's going to be proposing a bill on behalf of all New Democrats, which will defend our pension. It'll defend pensions for Albertans and all Canadians. That's what you get with New Democrats. While Conservatives want to attack your pensions and take it away from you, New Democrats want to defend your pensions and defend you. That's a choice you have in the upcoming election. A party that wants to defend you, defend your pensions, or a party that wants to gamble with your pensions, that wants to take away your dignity and your respect. And with that, I'm ready for any questions you might have.
We're going to start with questions on site. We'll do one question, one follow-up, starting with the Canadian press.
Sounds good.
Thanks very much. It's Lisa Johnson. Sorry, I apologize. This is off topic.
Okay.
Yesterday, the Prime Minister was in Saskatoon. He had some pretty tough language for the Saskatchewan Premier. He said that the CRA is going to continue to dole out the carbon tax rebates to Saskatchewanians no matter what. But he also suggested they were still going to collect the carbon tax from Saskatchewan. What do you think about this kind of standoff, and how do you see it coming to a conclusion?
Well, what I've seen with the Prime Minister is really a divisive approach to fighting the climate crisis. One that should be a fight where we're all united. We all are seeing the impacts. In fact, right now we're in Alberta. We've got fires that are happening just in the city limits. We've got fires already early in the season, and there's already fires in central Alberta and in northern communities. So we know that the impacts of the climate crisis are real, and we need a plan where we are all united in fighting back. And what the Liberals have done has been to sow division with their plan. And so what New Democrats want to do is we want a plan where we bring people together. We absolutely know that it is fundamentally important for us to protect our environment. Canadians know that. Canadians want to do their part. But Canadians don't want to be put in a false contrast or a false division between having to choose between affordability or choosing between fighting the climate crisis. So what we want to propose is a plan where we make life affordable, where we take on the climate crisis and reduce our emissions, and we take on big polluters. That's what New Democrats want to do. And so my message to Justin Trudeau would be, we need a plan that's more fair for workers. When workers see billions of dollars in subsidies going to big polluters, and there's no money in place for everyday Canadians to get a heat pump, that feels unfair. That's what we're talking about when we talk about unfairness in a plan. We need a plan that's fair for working people, that stops the big polluters, and that ensures that we've got a good economy, good jobs, and affordability.
Do you have a follow-up?
Yeah, thanks. I mean, great to hear some of the specifics about what that climate change plan is from New Democrats, but you've also created a lot of confusion about what your stance is on the carbon tax with some of your recent comments. I'm wondering if your recent comments have anything to do with several Alberta NDP leadership candidates, saying publicly that the carbon tax has lost public support, that it's on its way out, and it's dead. I mean, has that, I guess, played a role in, or a factor in what we're now hearing from you? Like, a lot of people want to know specifically where you stand on the carbon tax.
Well, I've said again and again, my position has not changed. Absolutely, we believe in a price on pollution. We have seen the cost of pollution. We have seen the impacts in our water, where waste has been dumped into water, polluting our waters. We've seen the impacts in our communities with the climate change. I've been to communities where they experience extreme forest fires and extreme flooding in the same year. They've never seen that happen before. I've been to communities where people evacuated from their homes to the capital city and then had to be evacuated from the capital city. That happened in Northwest Territories. So we know that the impacts of the climate crisis are real. We absolutely have to take on the causes. And we have, between the choice that Canadians have, we've got Conservatives that are, when they say what their plan is, they're saying that they have no plan. They want to allow big polluters to dump into our waters, pollute our air, pollute our land, do whatever they want. No limits. Pollute as much as you want. That's not a plan. That's wrong. Of course, Canadians don't want to see pollution be dumped into our water and our land and our air. And then the Liberals have a plan which is divisive, which is not bringing together Canadians, and it is feeling very unfair. So while we absolutely believe that there's a cost to pollution, we want a plan that's fair. Canadians deserve that plan. New Democrats will lay out our plan in the future. But what we want to see in a plan is one that is fair, one that is affordable for Canadians, and one that takes on the big polluters.
We will now go to Risa Patel with the Toronto Star. Please go ahead.
Hi, Mr. Singh. I'm wondering, what exactly do you need to see from the Liberals regarding the disability benefit to support the budget, and will you vote against it if you don't get that?
Well, we've raised our concerns, so we want to see what the response is to those concerns. So I'm not going to presuppose kind of the outcome of that conversation, but I will say, I'll tell you that I'm going to raise, well, I've raised it publicly. I want to hear from the Prime Minister why the amount is so low, why it's so hard to access in terms of the disability amount, and also the fact that there's no clarity around whether provinces can claw back that amount. There's a lot of unanswered questions around the disability amount. And this is something that New Democrats have long fought for. Given the cost of living being so high and how that would disproportionately hurt people living with disabilities, we really believe this benefit would provide some relief. But at $200 a month, no clarity around clawbacks provincially, no clarity around how the amount is so low and how to increase it to an amount that's more sufficient, and why it's so hard to access it. These are outstanding questions that I want to see answers to. And then in respect to the Indigenous housing and infrastructure, this has been a long-standing, massive gap that has not been addressed in a meaningful way. And while we fought for significant investments, there's still a massive gap that exists. So I want to understand the government's plan. I want to hear from Justin Trudeau before we give our decision on the budget.
As a follow-up, I'm wondering, do you think it's a good idea to have a spring election this year? I mean, just in your opinion, what might be the benefits of having an election now?
Well, that's not something that we're hoping for. We're not trying to plan for an election. We are trying to make sure that we do everything we can to make a good decision for Canadians around the budget. We fought to put in place real supports, real things that are going to make life better, helping people with food when it comes to kids going to school, helping people with the cost of medication, helping people stay in their homes by protecting renters, all very important measures. So we've been able to use our power that way. We want to see what else we can do to address some of the concerns we have before making our decision. I want to just make the contrast with the Conservatives who came out without even reading really the details of the budget, without even reflecting on it, came out with an abrupt no. Similarly, we didn't want to come out with an abrupt yes. We want to make sure we're reflecting on it properly, making sure we understand the elements that are in it. Hearing from Canadians that are concerned that the Liberals promise a lot but don't really follow through on it. We want to make sure that there's some real concrete things in the budget that will help people out before we make our decision. And we want to address our concerns before we make our decision.
We will now go to Mickey with the Canadian Press. Please go ahead.
Thank you for taking another question from Canadian Press. Canada's Building Trades Union says Nexstar in Windsor is giving work promise to Canadians to foreign workers. Have you spoken to the union at all about this? And I guess what needs to be done to ensure Canadian union jobs don't go to foreign workers?
I have spoken to the union about this. This is a very serious concern that they've raised. And this is another reason why we want to see anytime there's public money put forward towards any projects, whether it's investments in factories, supporting business investments in Canada, we want to see strings attached so that there's guarantees that if we make investments, we actually get Canadian jobs. We want to see investments made to ensure and incentivize jobs in Canada, but we don't want to see those blank checks where there's money invested, but we don't have a guarantee that those jobs will stay in Canada, that there's Canadians that get the opportunities, and that those jobs will be there for the long term. So this is another reason why we need to see better guarantees anytime we spend public money. And then I guess to your question, what we can do now is there's been concerns raised about the number of temporary foreign worker permits that have been allowed for this work site. And we want to make sure that the work that can be done by Canadians is being done by Canadians and that we don't rely on temporary foreign workers where they're ready and available workers in those communities to do that work.
Thank you. And I guess, we're going to see another EV announcement tomorrow regarding Honda. Do you want to see specific protection of union jobs in these contracts, especially when it comes to these large projects?
Absolutely. When we talk about guarantees for jobs, we want to see guarantees for good union jobs. We know that's one of the only ways to protect good wages, good work conditions, and ensure that those jobs and those work conditions continue for the long term. That's why we talk about strings attached to investments. Why New Democrats believe there needs to be guarantees baked in to any dollar that we spend. Public dollars should be tied to jobs and investments that benefit Canadians. It should not be that we just give a blank check to a company and say, we hope that you're going to hire Canadians. We hope that this is going to be beneficial. We need to see some guarantees, particularly when we look at the amount of money being invested. So that's another reason why we want to see strings attached to public investments that guarantee good jobs, good union jobs, and ensure that those investments stay in Canada for the long term.
We will now go to Marina with the CBC. Please go ahead.
Hi there, Mr. Singh. Conservative leader Pierre Poilievre was filmed posing with anti-carbon tax protesters flying F Trudeau flags. In the video, Poilievre is heard saying Trudeau is a liar and everything he says is, quote, bullshit. What is your reaction?
Well, one of the things that I've seen again and again from Pierre Poilievre is something that really disappoints me in terms of leadership. A leader should be someone that brings Canadians together. A leader shouldn't be someone that is irresponsible with language.
This is the ninth deficit. The ninth deficit after the Prime Minister promised the budget would balance itself. And what did he do with the money? Everything he spent on has become more expensive. He's doubled the rent, doubled mortgage payments, doubled the needed down payment for a home, forced 35 homeless encampments in Halifax alone. 1 in 4 kids cannot afford food. And now he's adding $40 billion of new debt and new spending. That's $2,400 of new inflation. That is why Conservatives will vote against this wasteful inflationary budget that is like a pyromaniac spraying gas on the inflationary fire that he lit. It is getting too hot and too expensive for Canadians, and that's why we need a carbon tax election to replace him with a common sense conservative government.
Long-term effects on our economy of young people who can't build their dreams, can't start a family, can't live in the communities in which they work, will be devastating for this economy. The current situation is not just unfair for young families and young people who don't have the opportunities that their parents and grandparents had when you work hard to build a future for yourself.
stokes division, that stokes hatred. And we've seen again and again that Pierre Poilievre is someone who is purposely trying to divide Canadians. He is someone that's been endorsed by the likes of Alex Jones and Tucker Carlson. This is a divisive person who is giving life to and giving breath to folks to continue his irresponsible approach, to his divisive approach, to his approach to Canadians, where he doesn't care about people, he doesn't care about workers, he just cares about power, and he'll do anything it takes to divide Canadians, to hurt people to get there.
We've seen in the last two federal budgets the use of significant tax credits for electric vehicle manufacturing. So my question is, does the NDP support using potentially billions in taxpayer money to woo investments like the one Honda Canada is set to announce in Ontario tomorrow?
We believe that we can use different incentives to create jobs in Canada, but those incentives have to be tied to good jobs, good union jobs, work opportunities, and guarantees those investments stay in the country. I'm concerned with the approach that both the Liberals and the Conservatives before them have used, where they give money to big companies, but they don't require ironclad guarantees that benefits actually Canadian workers. And we've seen this concern recently with one of the questions that I just answered around the Next Gen plan, where there's concerns raised by the union about workers, temporary foreign workers being used instead of Canadian workers. And so that is my ongoing concern. I remember being at a protest in London, Ontario, during the Harper government era, where they gave significant money in tax credits and other forms of incentives to large corporations. In this case, it was a subsidiary of Caterpillar. And that company actually shut down its shop, took the money, took Canadian taxpayer dollars, shut down the factory, and left the country. And so we saw that with Conservatives, and I'm worried that that's going to happen again now. So while I absolutely agree that we need to be flexible and nimble in our support for investments in Canada, that support, whether it's in the form of tax credits or other incentives, has to be tied with ironclad guarantees that this will benefit Canadian workers, create jobs in Canada, support good union jobs, and that those investments will be here for the long term.
On TikTok, Mr. Singh, the U.S. president has signed a bill in the States that will bring forward either a ban or divestment by the Chinese-owned company that owns the company. Would you support something similar happening in Canada if the company is still owned by the Chinese government after the 12-month period the U.S. has set out?
I appreciate the question. Our concern around TikTok is to make sure that users in Canada are safe, that their data and their privacy is protected. Now, that's really our focus. We want to make sure that those things are supported and ensure that in general, that's something we want to see happen with all social media platforms, that anyone that uses those platforms, that their data, their personal security is protected, is something that we've long believed in, and we want to see guarantees that Canadians are protected when they use any social media platform.
You got rid of your TikTok account despite it having a very large following because the federal government said it couldn't be on federal devices. If they shouldn't be on federal devices, do you believe they should be on regular Canadians' devices? Do they not have the same security concerns that members of parliament and other federal employees have?
I think that there's a different level of security analysis when it comes to members of parliament in terms of concerns that were raised with me around tracking of movement and for individual and members of parliament that can be easily identified. So those concerns for federal devices, I understood, and I listened to the recommendation. We're making a decision to be able to use the platform as a party, so our party has got back on the platform. And on my personal side, we're making that consideration of how to get back on it in a safe way. But for users in general, this is a live question for all social media platforms. People are concerned about the use of their data. They're concerned about privacy. And that's why we've been pushing for better protections in place across all media platforms to ensure that Canadians are protected. We also want to see that things like hate speech, particularly as it impacts children, we want to make sure that children are protected on these platforms. And those are concerns that are still outstanding and have not been addressed.
So what do you think, guys? Is Jagmeet looking to help Canadians out, only help himself? Does he care about the pensions? Does he care about the next election? Who knows if he's even going to run? Like, if I were him and I looked at those polls, I'd be like, I'm getting out of here. There's no way that I'm going to lead my party to a victory with the way that Canadians feel about me. So That's just me. I'm not the same as JAGMEET, I'm pretty friggin' sure. My name's Aaron, this is Question Period Canada. We watch the live broadcasts of every question period. Come and join one of the live shows. It's a blast. It's a great community in a different way. If you've not seen a live chat, participated in one, I bet you'll like it on this channel. Check it out. Come and join one of our live shows. Aaron, Question Period Canada. Like, subscribe, get notified, all that fun stuff, and maybe share it with somebody. We'll be back on Monday with a live show, so check us out then. Thanks for watching this one. JAGMEET, right? Who trusts that guy anymore? I know that I don't. Time's up. Tick-tock. Later, guys. Thanks for watching. Have something healthy to eat. Try to stay warm.